More than 50 years ago, missiles were ready to launch in upstate New York.
Now, the Cold War is long over now, but some military waste is still inspiring fear.
It is a News 10 ABC special report. Tim Lake joins us live in the studio now with more. Tim?
All right, Lydia and John, the missiles in the Adirondacks caused the same fear then that some people may have today with the North Koreans, now experimenting with nuclear missiles. But now there are some new concerns. The first intercontinental ballistic missiles were Atlas rockets. At the height of the Cold War, they were hidden in the Adirondacks of northern New York State. In the shadow of Whiteface Mountain, it was the only site east of the Mississippi.
This is where the where the pad is, where the missile was. That's where it would come up out of the earth when they would bring it up.
By 1962, the Air Force installed 12 Atlas missiles in a ring around the old Plattsburgh Air Force Base. In theory, they could reach Moscow. So this is your property over
yes,
here?
Yes, it is.
During the Cuban Missile Crisis, John Ouimet remembers coming home to Lewis, New York, to find the greatest firepower in the world in a deep, bomb-proof underground silo next to his family's Adirondack woods. 50 years later, the long-abandoned missile silo is still causing him sleepless nights.
It used to be eerie. I would stand here when they would bring the missile up about 5 o'clock at night. And it looked like a silver bullet coming up out of the earth, and then it would retract back into the ground.
The Adirondacks missiles scared Americans, especially Ouimet.
Because of Plattsburgh Air Force Base, if they would have ever decided to take them out and then try to launch this, we would have been blown off the map.
The missiles became such a part of northern New York State life, they were celebrated, like in this 1964 home movie of a Plattsburgh, New York Independence Day parade. They weren't very accurate. Nearly as fast as they appeared, they were gone. The abandoned Adirondack silos were sold to private buyers. Some were made into homes complete with landing strips. Most were sealed and forgotten. But now, nuclear fear is back. A University at Albany professor is an expert on how North Korea has built nuclear missiles despite decades of economic sanctions.
They don't have full coverage. They can't reach Washington yet. But some of the ballistic missiles, like the Taepodong-2, have a true intercontinental capability.
Professor Early says the North Koreans have not perfected missiles to reach the White House like in their propaganda video. No longer a target, these old missile sites present a new problem. This is another one of the missile sites along the edge of Lake Champlain. And the problem that the owners have when they try to utilize these missile sites that are 185 feet deep is they find they're filled up with water. When they go to pump the water out, they find that it's contaminated with chemicals. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation investigated pumping of water from the Lewis missile silo, which drained into a creek. They found PCBs, lead, and mercury in the sludge. Since then, the new owners are draining the silo under state supervision.
My big concern is contaminated water, number one. That's the main factor. And then if the government is putting something there that we're sitting on that we don't know about, that's a concern to me, too.
The previous owner of the Lewis site was an Australian who invited veterans to annual missile silo open house tours. The new owner is a Washington, D.C. company named Diversified Upstate Enterprises, and that's about all anyone knows.
What's going on there?
Lewistown leaders are asking what the mysterious new Washington owner will do with the old silo. Speculation and gossip are all over the small town. A police training facility, a getaway resort, or secret scientific research. Nobody knows.
Have not gotten any response other than to a letter back that says that their intent is to create a seismic monitoring laboratory.
So who knows? Now, we've tried several times to find the people behind the company that now owns that site, but we've not been able to. They have not responded to our request. Now, seismic research is a possibility, I suppose. Sure. I don't know for sure, but there is a fault line that runs across the top of the Adirondacks, and over the past 100 years or so, there have been some big
earthquakes around here.
I mean, we've felt little ones
Yeah.
around here, so
Well,
you're
that's
right.
I say big for this
You're
area.
big for the, yeah.
You're right.
Well,
They
what's
are little
fascinating to
ones.
me is we've all driven up to Lake Placid or Montreal. Who knew these unless you know the history
Right,
of the area,
all
that they were
around
up there.
Been going to the Adirondacks for 40 years. I had no idea they were there.
Fascinating look
Yeah.
into it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Tim.
Thank you, Tim.